Yes, we are on. We are ready to go. So you can
All right.
just start wherever wherever it starts for you, and I take notes as we go, and I'll kind of ask questions and all the things. So
All right. So first, if I start coughing, I apologize. I got COVID about 5 years ago and messed up my lungs. So I cough a lot, but I have some water. Hopefully, praying that doesn't happen. But if it does,
well,
just forewarning you and apologizing.
it's okay. No apology
So
needed.
my name is Keith. I am a certified peer recovery coach. I work for a regional recovery hub, and the name of the place is Wabash Valley Recovery Center. We serve 10 counties in West Central Indiana. I actually, I'll get into my story more, but I actually live in Illinois, but work um, in Terre Haute. That's where the recovery center is located. We cover 10 counties. There, every county in Indiana is covered by a recovery hub. We're all peer recovery coaches, but we have other programs that we do as well. I am like I said, certified peer recovery coach too, which is just like more education, more supervised hours. I have endorsements in forensic support, which is more education to better help those that are incarcerated. I have a mental health endorsement and a gambling endorsement. I am also a MRT facilitator. MRT is moral recognition therapy, really big
The
here in
MRT
Indiana.
class. MRT is
MRT?
it's like what really got me started on the path of actually changing my thinking. It really is.
Oh,
I had been clean for a little while, but I wasn't in recovery, you know what I mean? And
yep.
I ended up going to jail just on some like a probation violation. It wasn't like I wasn't using or anything, but just some and and I went to and while I was there, I ended up taking an MRT class, and it was the first time that I really like put anything into it. You know what I mean? Like it was the pictures. That's what got me is drawing them little pictures,
On the
and
little picture.
yeah, and I
So
like
we start with
yeah, and I
Yep.
don't know what it was about them, but that just I don't know. That's cool.
Yep. So I'm
You
an
said I'm
MRT
sorry.
facilitator
You have endorsements
on the
in mental health, gambling, MRT, and what else?
forensic support.
Forensics. Forensics. Yeah. All right.
Yep. And then I'm also a facilitator for alternative to suicide. So it's a peer ran group. We do it every Thursday. It's anonymous. People come in. We don't ask for names. It's kind of like a harm reduction approach to suicide. Like we don't report. We don't call the cops. They come in with a plan. They can tell us they're doing it right after they leave. We just talk to them and allow them to air their grievances, and hopefully we'll see them next week. But it's pretty new. It started in, I want to say, New Jersey. No, Massachusetts. It started in Massachusetts, and they came to Indiana and started doing it here.
How long have you been
So
doing that? That's pretty cool. I've never heard of that.
about a year and a half. I got certified about a year and a half ago. We started a group about a year ago. We got
Do
a
you guys
small
have
grant.
like pretty good success rates, or is that
Yeah. Thank God we haven't had anybody unalive themselves. We
awesome?
average about 3 or 4 people a week, give or take, in and out.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome.
So obviously my story didn't start there. Um, so I was born in a small town, kind of like the town that uh, has the square and like the shops around and a courthouse in the middle. A really small town. My mom and dad were married, and I had 3 half brothers. Um, my middle brother Tony passed away when I was around 3, and he was around 11. He was born with a lot of mental and physical disabilities, and that I imagine that put a lot of stress on my mom and dad. They ended up getting divorced, and you know, my dad was off chasing women, and my mom fell on financial hardships and raising 3 boys of her own. We ended up moving to the east side of Indianapolis, where we got on like Section 8 housing and food stamps and all that. We lived in the Section 8 housing, like people call it the ghetto or the hood, or typically anywhere you have low income, you have high crime rate. So seeing like drugs, violence,
Yeah.
prostitution, gangs,
I lived in some
uh,
HUD, some such Section 8 HUD houses in Cincinnati, down right in the middle of and that's where they put them. That's where they are, right in the, well, the security guard to our building. He actually got shot in the leg while,
mm,
yeah, while I lived there. It was crazy.
mm. Yeah, I've seen my neighbor. My neighbor, she shot her husband, right in front of like he was running from her, and she shot him right in front of our house. Yeah, but seeing that, that's just the way I thought the world was. I didn't know any different. Um, it was about the second grade. I failed the second grade, and at that time, I didn't understand why. Uh, I couldn't go to my school with my friends. I had to ride this little bus to a different school, and I would find out later on that they diagnosed me with ADHD and dyslexia, and they put me in LD classes or learning disability classes. And I was in learning disability classes until I graduated high school. And it's not like it is now, where you have like the individual learning program or whatever it's called. They just stuck us all in one class. So like me, I needed like longer time, like to process stuff or to take a test or just put in more effort to me. And then they put kids that had behavioral problems in there. Had nonverbal speaking kids. There was a kid there with a helmet on because he always had seizures. They just grouped us all together and put us all in one
Just
class. And
everyone, yeah.
yeah, basically, if you showed up to school, you passed. That was it. Um, it was second grade. It was about that time. My mom got a living boyfriend. His name is Dan. He's no longer with us. And back then, like parenting was different. Like nowadays, they consider like emotional abuse. I was told like I was stupid or lazy or good for nothing, like on a daily basis. And being that young and having that told to somebody that all the time like that just uh, formed something in my brain like negative self talk. There's a time I know my wife is watching. She hates it when I tell this story, but I was about in the fourth or fifth grade, and I was outside throwing a baseball up in the air, catching it in my mitt. And he came outside to play catch with me. And at the time, I thought this was pretty cool because we didn't have like where I grew up. Not a lot of people had like father figures around. Um, Not a lot of father and kids' lives over there, and he never wanted to really do anything with me. So we were throwing the ball back and forth, and he caught the ball and he did something with it behind his back, and he threw it back at me, and I caught it. And when I looked down at it, there was human feces on it, and I looked down at it, and like tears were streaming down my cheeks, and I looked up, and he was laughing as he went back inside, and that's how I felt. Like I felt just exactly what was on that ball, just like human excrement. And that's when like the
I'm mad
light went
right
out.
now. I know why your wife don't like that story. God, that's awful.
And like kids have light. Um, Kids have a light in them, and that's when like that light was burnt out for me. There were some days when I formed a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety issues, and became a real big introvert. Um, some days it was just like staying in my closet just to stay away from him, or just to not feel like the world was so big, just like hiding in my closet for some reason. But um, I watched my brother freebase cocaine the first time when I was about 8 or 9, and around 11 or 12, I started watching porn, and porn was a big addiction for me for a really long time. that led, me not knowing how to love myself, not uh, knowing how to love somebody else. And MRT actually uh, showed me that I looked for women who had codependency issues because I could easily manipulate them and control them, not physically, but mentally. So um, that all that led into I messed around with alcohol, but the guy that Dan, he was an alcoholic, so I never really had an alcohol problem. When I would drink until I passed out, which is a handful of times. And weed was a big part of my life. It's always just like a pothead, selling it, buying it. Um, and then, so that led, all of that combined led to 2 divorces. And the last divorce, I had a daughter, or I have a daughter. And uh, our relationship is strained even today. It is what it is, but I'm here for her when you know, when she wants to have a relationship with me. But just like my dad, I was an absent father to her. I mean, honestly, through the divorce, and once we got separated and divorced, I didn't fight for her hard enough, and I just let it be okay. Me not seeing her. And I just want to say real quick that me and my dad have an awesome relationship now. Um, he's in my life. He's sick, but I'm blessed to still have him in my life. We probably talk or text a couple times a week.
That's awesome. How old's your daughter?
So I have a biological daughter, and she's 23. I have an adopted daughter. My wife, I adopted two of her kids, and then I have a stepdaughter, and then I have like I don't know, another stepdaughter, I guess, and we have her son. He calls me Pap Pap here because she just had a baby girl today, just like an hour ago.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Do we have a
It
baby girl
is.
name?
Uh, what is it? I know my wife's watching. Scarlet. Yeah,
Scarlet. Oh, I love
right.
that. So pretty.
And so I was. Where was I?
Your dad, you're talking about, you said
Yeah,
you and
my
your dad have
daughter.
a good relationship now. You talked about your daughter.
Yeah, and if I reach out to her, she'll reply, but I won't hear any contact from her. Like, no Merry Christmas, no Happy Birthday. I told her Happy Birthday. Our birthdays were like 8 days apart. She said thanks, but nothing towards me, and nothing really I can do about it. I'm just sure that I'm here for her. I was single for a while, and then I met my wife. Uh, we dated. We ended up breaking up. We ended up getting back together and got engaged, and then got married a year later. While we were first dating, I had a really nasty infection, and had to have like an emergency surgery. And after that, I got on hooked. I got a prescription of opiates, and I got hooked on those really bad. And that's what really grabbed a hold of me. For once, if I wasn't high for a short period of time because of the weed, for once, so the negative self-talk like stopped in my head when I took them, when I overused them. Um, I was always that person that said I never had a problem because they're legal. I was getting prescriptions for them. I mean,
Right.
but I was lying to doctors and going to ERs to get them. This was before the internet, so everything wasn't connected like it is now. I remember going into one ER and then knowing that I was pill shopping and I had an abscess, and that's what I told him I was going for in my mouth. He said, "I'll write you a description on if I could, bust an abscess in your mouth." And I said, "Okay." So no Novocaine, no nothing. He took a razor blade and a scalpel and cut that abscess open. And I thought it was worth it just to get my prescription. It was July 2nd. It was a really sunny day, warm. I remember this day to a T. I worked in downtown Indianapolis as a cook. I went to the ER, got a prescription, took the entire bottle on my way to work, ended up passing out. My coworkers and my friends ended up getting me into my car, where I ended up driving home, but I have no recollection of how I got home. The next memory I have is me waking up on the 4th of July yelling at my wife because she wanted me to get up and watch fireworks with the kids. Now, this entire time I'm not working, I'm not doing nothing. I'm somewhat watching the kids because I am abusing pills while I'm watching them. She's working tons of hours in the job she's working at to provide for us.
Is this the wife that your current wife now?
Yep. Yes. And that was my rock bottom. So that's where I saw the abstinent use part of it. But that set my mental health back a lot. About a week after that, of not using in this the negative self-talk, I wanted to end my own life. So she was a Sunday. She was at work, working another open to close 12-hour shift, and the kids were in bed, and I had a 9 in my mouth, wanted to take my own life. The only reason why I didn't was because I didn't want her to come home and have to clean up the mess. So I didn't, but I was planning on doing it. And I say, but God had a different plan. He, so it was just a couple weeks after that. My in-laws, my wife.
I want to real quick, Keith. I'm sorry. You said you quit the pills and stuff. Are you just cold turkey and white knuckle in it, or are you doing some kind of Okay, that's why. That was the impression I got. You're just going at it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Didn't do anything else. Just stopped. So 2 weeks after that, we got a phone call, and my in-laws got a job opportunity in North Carolina to build like a nuclear plant. He was a pipe fitter in union, and his daughter was a senior in high school, and she didn't want to move with them. So they asked us if we would move into the house rent free. They took care of all the bills until we got jobs.
So was this your wife's sister?
My wife's mom.
Your wife's mom.
Yeah, my wife's stepsister.
Okay, yeah, the child.
Yeah, in school. Yeah.
Okay.
So we thought about it. They needed a quick answer. We said, yeah. My wife put in her 2-week notice. It ended up being about 3.5 weeks to a month notice. So on Christmas break, 14 years ago, I loaded up the kids and moved our stuff to Terre Haute, Indiana. And I remember driving the U-Haul and talking to myself like, this is a new beginning or a fresh start. Like, what can I do to make things different? And I guess cliche as it might sound, a small voices is like, why don't you try to go to church? And church was never a part of my life growing up. I went to church a handful of times on my own. When my grandparents were alive, I'd go to church with them if I was like summer break, vacation, whatever, spending the weekend with them. They were always in the church Wednesday, Sunday, but they're the most racist people I've ever met in my life. So I put like religion and racism in a box and wanted nothing to do with it. So the first week that we were there, it snowed really bad. We got snowed in and couldn't get out. We were literally in the woods where this house is. And the second weekend we got out, it was a Sunday. I took the kids and went to church, and I told my wife I was gonna go to church, and she was like, "What? Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah." Um, so I remember getting dressed, and I have a lot of tattoos, but I had a couple then, not as many as I have now. And I was really trying to hide who I was. Like I was always that person that said that if I was to step into a church, I'd catch on fire,
Yeah.
or that the Bible was just like a book of rules, and that was just out of my own ignorance. So we got to church, and we picked the closest church to us, and it was this church called Maryland Community Church, and we're the size of Terre Haute. It's like a mega church, kind of. It holds about, I think, 1,300 people. Has 3 services. Has 2 satellite locations now. But we picked seats way up top and in the back, again, trying to hide who I was. And this pastor at the time, he's retired now. His name is Vince. He did the sermon that day. Well, let me back up a little bit. When we walked in to church, there was this old lady and this old man. The old man, his name is Bob, and his wife's name is Donna. And they were greeters. And they came up and gave me a hug, and I didn't like it. I'm not a touchy feely kind of person. And she looked at me and she told me that I had a beautiful family. And she said, "Welcome home." And all the walls that I had built up around myself just came crumbling down. Um, so we picked up seats way up top. The pastor Vince was doing the sermon that day, and I gave my life to Christ. A couple months later, he baptized me. We became pretty good friends, like a mentor to me. And a big part of my recovery is giving back. And I was, they have this, it's called the Cause Corner, and they have these different causes, like ministries, uh, Operation Christmas Child, Samaritan's First, whatever you want to call them, in this corner, asking for support. And there was this prison ministry called Kairos that was out over there. And I went over to it to check them out, and they handed me a recipe to make chocolate chip cookies. So every weekend used to have before COVID, they would make enough for a half a dozen cookies to feed the entire population of the prison that they're going into. So they handed me this recipe to make 100 dozen cookies. And so I took this recipe home and I set it down, and I never picked it back up. I ended up in the trash can. And then they have 2 weekends a year, and 6 months went by, and I went by over there again to that table and asked, checked it out. And they gave me a background check and asked me if I could come to closing. So they invite people from the public in to watch the closing on Sunday. And I said, "Sure, I will." And again, I sat the paper down, ended up in the trash can, and never did anything with it. So it was about that time when a friend of mine, I was working at a factory, And the friend of mine I met, his name is Steven, he invited me to this thing called the Great Banquet. It's kind of like Walk to Emmaus is kind of bigger than the Great Banquet. It's a 4-day weekend, kind of like a spiritual retreat. There's one for men and one for women. And the first time he asked me to go, about a year before that, I told him no.
Hold on. I
It was
want to
like,
just real quick. Your wife said I was still in Indy finishing my notice out. Did you leave? There's something. Where was she not with you at this point?
yeah, when I went to church, she wasn't with us. She was still in Indy. Yep.
Oh. Oh, so she didn't come with you right at the first when you first moved, like when you first
Yeah.
out there. Okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. She was still in Indy, and we went to church on our own. It was just me and me and the 3 girls, and then her half sister or her
How did
stepsister.
she take that? Like when you called her that day and you said, not only did you go to church, but that you got saved. Like,
I don't really remember, honestly. I think she's just surprised and shocked. She's like, "Oh, okay." But she's a believer. Her whole family is. But she can tell you as well as I can. There's a difference between knowing Christ and then following Christ. And she knew Christ, but she wasn't following. She wasn't following him yet. Does that make sense? So yeah, I went on the first time he told me. I told him no. You can't drive there. You have to be driven there. It's kind of like in the middle of the woods. You can't have your cell phone. I was like, no, it sounds like a cult. I'm not going. So the second time he asked me, I said, yeah, I'll go. And I went. And I prejudged the whole weekend. I looked at these people. They weren't like me. And they're farmers. At this time, we were living in Paris, Illinois. They're farmers and old. And I didn't have any connection with them at all. And the first guy that got up was a pastor. And he did this talk on priorities. First thing he says is, I've been a pastor for 40 years, and I've struggled with pornography for 40 years. This is what this pastor said. And I'm like, oh, okay. You got my attention now. So I went on the weekend, and I heard this word for the first time called agape. It's called agape love. It's like the love that God has for us. It's a love that we don't earn, and there's nothing we can do to so bad that he doesn't love us. And at the end of the weekend, they ask you 2 things. And all these people from the community that have been through the weekend come to like this graduation or the closing ceremony. And you get up there, and they ask you 2 things. And they ask you, what did you learn, and what are you going to take back with you? And I told them that I learned that even though at that time I didn't love myself, that I knew that God loved me. And what I was going to do with that was I was going to take the gospel and tell people that society has turned away about this agape love that God has for us all. So didn't really know why I said it. Just thought it, felt it in my heart, said it. Went back to church. The prison ministry is there. This prison ministry that I'm talking about is Kairos prison ministry. Your writing notes is Kairos. Kairos. And I didn't even go over to the table. I stayed away from it. I was like, nope, I'm not even doing it this time. So we take our seats. And on the announcements on the big screen there at our church, at the church I was attending, it says Kairos needs male volunteers to go into Putnamville Correctional Facility. I said, okay. So I felt this pull that I never felt before. And I fought that for 4 weeks. It was there for a month. And then the 5th week, the new month, it wasn't there anymore. The announcement wasn't there anymore. The poll wasn't there anymore. So I got connected with Vince, the pastor there. They got me connected with the weekend leader. And I told my wife, I was like, I think I'm going to do this Kairos thing. And she said, well, it's about time. And they have meetings, and you have to make a certain amount of meetings. And they told me if I made the rest of the meetings, that I would be able to be on the weekend. And that was Kairos number 13 at Putnamville Correctional Facility. And they just finished up in the fall Kairos number 26. And I haven't missed a weekend since. So I served on 14 weekends in a row. I served in every position. I've been on their board. Once I was a weekend leader, there always is a halt. To put on the weekend, you have to have ordained clergy. And there's always a battle to get ordained clergy for the weekend. So I went to seminary school. I got ordained. And now when I serve on the Kairos weekend, I can only serve as clergy because it's lay led. So Kairos is worldwide. They're in over almost 600 prisons. In Indiana, they're in 16 prisons. They're in, I believe, 6 continents. And it's 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where we go in. We tell the gospel through talks and meditations and song. We used to bring in food and cook for them. My wife, the weekend that I led, my wife had her and a couple of friends and 2 inmates cook the entire weekend for us inside the facility. I've seen amazing. The reason why I go back is because my life changed on my first weekend, number 13. They have a special ceremony where they give you this rice paper, and it's about forgiveness, and they tell you to write people's names that you need to forgive. So I put Dan's name first. And then they have a pastor get up and say some stuff about forgiveness, and they have a bowl of water, and they have 2 other people that are serving on either side of him, on both sides of him. And you go up there and you drop this list into this water, and it disappears because it's rice paper. And then they tell you that, you know, it's forgiven, that, as far as the east is from the west, God forgets it. So, and then your hands are washed from it. And I just felt such a relief. It's such a weight lifted off of me through that. So that's why I always go back. And I've seen amazing things happen. I've seen Satanists give their life to Christ. I've seen people announce being Wiccans and um, renounce that and give their life to Christ. Just amazing things. And shout out to my family and my wife. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do it. My kids are out of the house now, but I miss so many things in my family doing that. The second weekend 14, the second weekend I served on, the Thursday that I went in, my wife was going in to have back surgery. My wife has had 3 back surgeries and has her back fused now. And she wanted me to go. So if one person gives her life to Christ, that it was worth it. And I was at a family table. That's what they call them, families. So you have 6 volunteers. They come in, and then you have 2, 4, 6 inmates sitting at the table, and they use names in the Bible. So it'd be like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John would be the family table's names. And the table that I was at had a connection to every single person there. One guy I went to high school with. Another guy worked with my wife at the company that she worked for. It was just insane. It was just God. So through Kairos, I started volunteering in a county jail where I left the church. So we were traveling about 45 minutes back and forth to work and to church, living in Terre Haute, and then working in Illinois. So we decided to move to Illinois. And for about 2 years, we were still going to the same church. And then we decided we needed to look for a new church. We spent about 6, 8 months like church shopping. We finally found one that we liked, that we enjoyed. And through the church and through my experience at Kairos, I started serving in the county jail there in Clark County. And me and my wife would do it together. We'd go in and pray for inmates and talk to them about Jesus. And we furnished the whole jail with Bibles. And then COVID hit. I got sick and that shut that down. And then Vince, that pastor, was retired now. And he asked me if I've ever thought about going into the USP. A USP is a maximum security prison, federal prison. And he said it's a lot different than, Putnamville is a level 2, 3. So you have level 1, which is like low. You have level 2, 3, which is like 20 years or 10 years or less to get out. And then you have like level 4, which is like max, super max. And that's the state level. And he said it's a much different population than that. This is a federal maximum security prison. That's called the Life Connections Program. And you go in twice a month. And you mentor 2 inmates for 45 minutes apiece. And so I'm like, sure, why not? So I started doing that, and I've been doing it for a little over 2 years now, where I go in every other Tuesday. I met guys that are never getting out of prison. They're doing life. I was teaching a recovery addiction class later on, and they're volunteering doing that. And I met a guy in that that had 2 life sentences plus 60 years. He was in the cartel, Hispanic gentleman. He was flying heroin into the United States. They RICO act him, charged him with 7 murders. And it can be a scary place, but I thought that God put me there. And if God put me there, then I believe that He has my back.
What'd you say? 2 life sentences and 60 years?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I want
Yep.
real quick. You're getting a lot of love over on our TikTok over here. Just people, you're amazing. A lot of shout outs. People saying they're crying. You got me. Let's see. I just saw something. Oh, someone said they were locked up there. I don't know which one they were talking about that you mentioned, but they were locked up somewhere that we talked about. Yeah, that's a lot of time, Chrissy. Yep. You're getting so much love and support. I love it. And your wife, of course, she's over here in the YouTube comments.
Appreciate it. And then, so I'm still doing that, and I was working at a factory making headlights for different car companies. And don't get me wrong, this company is a great company. I made a lot of money. I was able to support my family when my wife couldn't, when she was dealing with her back. Amazing insurance. But I was working literally 5 days a week, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then like 8 on Saturday. So I was like, working myself to death. And it started to change me as a person. I was one way at home and one way at work and one way at church. I was a really nasty person. Just so tired. I was going to bed at 7 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock at night, getting up at 2:30 in the morning, going to work at 3, working until 3:30 in the afternoon, like every day. So I started looking for another job, and with me doing the seminary thing, I thought, what about like chaplain? Like that sounds pretty cool, but I just nothing ever fell into place. And I said, okay, so what about recovery? And there was a place in Charleston, Illinois, called Our House, and put in several applications there and never heard anything back. And so then we have a place called HRC, which is kind of like they have a little recovery thing, but it's more mental health and like job training, and put application in there. And I had an interview. And I walked into the interview, and this lady that was interviewing me was sitting across from me. She said, "I know you." And I said, "Well, this isn't going to go very well, no, is it?" And it didn't. I didn't get the job, and I was like, "Okay, it looks like I'm going to be here for the rest of my life." So I kind of gave up. I was scrolling Facebook one day, and Wabash Valley Recovery Center was hiring, and they were looking for people to go into a program, a grant-funded program in Indiana called IRACs. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but so I emailed the director and sent her my resume and told her about my experience at Kairos and the Life Connections program at the USP. And she interviewed me and she gave me the job. But we didn't get the grant. So that grant was pulled from us. There was a whole bunch of backstabbing going on. I don't want to really get into that and disclose that, but there was some shady stuff going on where 3 people left and started something else into the jail first, and the state wouldn't pay for dual services. So that grant was pulled from us, but she seen something in me, and she kept me, and I was first doing an Inspire program where I go into the county. My main thing was going into the county. We're all peer recovery coaches first. And what that means is basically we're a recovery hub. So we're kind of like a one-stop shop for recovery resources. We don't have like inpatient beds or anything like that. But if someone comes in and they want a 28-day program, we try to get them into that program, into that detox or into a inpatient. If they don't have insurance, we try to work with our insurance.
I have so what you're saying is like that you guys, you're not actually like a treatment center at all. You kind of like a resource, like you connect them and help them find what they need. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Like,
love that. I wasn't really sure what a recovery hub was.
so they don't have like if they don't have insurance, we work with our insurance navigator to get them insurance. And we get them in a 28-day program, or if they're looking for sober living, we try to get them into a sober living. We actually have funds through like fundraisers that we do to pay for people's first week, and then we're into a sober living. And we help once they get out of the 28-day program, we work with them through like motivational interviewing, like SMART goals, just to further their recovery and like a ongoing plan. And then we have other stuff that we do. We have which I currently work in is community outreach, which is basic because of the politics now and the government and wording. We can't say harm reduction. We have to say community outreach. So basically, it's harm reduction. We pass out supplies. We have everything in our office to pass out to people to use safely, besides needles and the substance itself, because needles are still prosecuted the counties that we work in, so we don't carry needles. But everything else we have for them to safely use, and the end goal really is to build community, build relationships. And when they want recovery, they know where they can go, where they're not going to be judged.
I love that. Your wife said you're her favorite. Your boss, I guess your boss, he said he's her favorite.
What she says. We have another program called Clear, which is Choose Law Enforcement Recovery. And so if a person is pulled over or stopped on the streets and they have like drug paraphernalia or small amounts of substance on them, they could bring them to the recovery hub, and we could get them into this Clear program and get them into working. We could do MRT. We get them into counseling.
What's it stand for again?
MRT.
No, choose law.
I'll choose law enforcement recovery. Law enforcement aided recovery. Clear. Yeah.
All right. Wow.
And when
really
when they complete the program, it's not guaranteed, but the majority of them, their charges are either lowered or dropped completely.
Wow.
And we have another program we just started, which is we have a family peer group. We have that work with people that have substance use disorder or mental health or co-occurring, and they're working with DCFS, like they got their kids taken away or they have a case against them. So we have a lady that her kids were taken, and she's now a peer recovery coach, and she leads it. We have a guy that was a counselor for DCFS, and then we have a teen, and then we have a teenager. Well, he's not a teenager; he's like 21, and he was actually in the foster system. And those three people work together to help families reunite their family together as a team. That's pretty cool, and advocate for them and the recovery. I think we have which is really cool. Sometimes transportation can be a very big barrier to recovery. We have a Lyft program where Grant will pay for people in recoveries their Lyft rides up to 8 a month, as long as it has to do with their recovery, which is awesome. And then, so we started going to this. A big part of my story is we started going to this church that I said earlier about, and I was invited to a leadership, kind of like a leadership small group that was led by our pastor, and he picks people that he sees leadership in and that could help lead the church. And so we did it, and at the end of it, they were looking for deacons, and I put my name out there, and so now I'm a deacon in my church, and that was pretty cool. Because if you look at us, you have like some old guys, you have a state cop, and some farmers, and you have me like standing there covered in tattoos.
That's cool, huh? Like so humbling. Like
it is pretty awesome.
Appreciate our
And
work.
now I've been at my job 2 years, and my certification is coming up in March, so I'm trying to get all the CEUs. I got all of them now, and last week I took my ethics again that I needed, and so I just need to submit all the paperwork for all the CEUs, and I'll get my credential for another 2 years. But a goal of mine is to be, I haven't told my wife this yet, but a goal for this year is to get my national certification. So if we ever leave Indiana, I can take that, and I won't have to go do all the whole training again. It's a national certification. That's about where I am now.
I love that. It's right on time too. So we're at an hour right now, 59 minutes. So I think I just had a few quick questions.
I did real quick, I did skip over that I am an assistant volunteer chaplain in Vigo County Jail. So
Nice.
as peers, we go into jails, and Vigo County is really hard for us to go into. So one day I thought, I can't go in there for recovery, but what about Christian services or faith-based services? And I was approved to do that. So now I go in every Friday, and I do a sermon, and we talk about recovery. I tell people about the recovery hub and things of that nature. But yeah, all right.
Your wife, first off, she said, "Oh my God, babe, yes." so I think she's on board. I love that, love the support. You know what? Really, I think I really don't have a lot of questions. You were very thorough, very thorough talker. I have all the notes, but you really explained. I kind of did ask some questions as we were going. I really, your story is great. Like, it's so inspirational. I love that. Like, you just like you gave your life to God. So do you you don't work any kind of NAAA or the steps or none of that?
Nope. So I used to be involved with sober recovery, and I still do somewhat, but I'm not like there all the time. Like, I've done in our area, we probably have 8 or 9 sober recoveries. I've given my testimony to all of them. That's why I've done this so many times that that's kind of thorough, I guess you said.
Mm-hmm.
I've done my testimony at all of them, half of them twice, but all of them at least once in our area, in Illinois and Indiana. Yeah, I did the step study on at sober recovery at one time, but the one in our area is just really small. I was going to one in Indiana, but there's a time difference and the distance, and they wanted to be one of the male leaders for the group, and there's sometimes you just need to be fed, and that's what I wanted.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your testimony. It was a really story last night when they said, whoever was in there, and they said that your story was really inspirational. They were spot on. I've been looking forward to it ever since then to kind of hear. I really didn't know anything about you until now today. Like, I know you've been in the groups a little bit, and I know that you had some good words and good advice and things, but I didn't know, obviously didn't know all of this. So I'm super I love, and that's why I really love I'm really liking, like, I've loved all of the podcast guests that I've had. All of them have been amazing, but I'm really liking that, like, people from the TikTok platform are coming over here, because now, like, I'm kind of really getting to know the people that I'm like hanging out with every day. I'm on 4 times a day and all this stuff. So like, I'm just really kind of getting to know people on a little bit better level, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I enjoy your group that you do. I enjoy a couple other ones. Sometimes I get up in a box and I'll say a little something, and then I'm like done, because I am that introvert. Unless I have to do something, like I could talk to 100 inmates, and then I could leave and not talk to anybody for the rest of the day and be cool with it. So,
You didn't seem like an introvert. You did so good. I am on kind of a little bit of a time crunch. Fridays are hard for me because I'm starting a women's group up at 8:30, and I've got a TikTok live actually right now. But if you don't have anything else to add to your story, I appreciate you so much. And feel free anytime to come back if you want to come back and share again, or share different parts, or any new updates, anything. You're always welcome. Anything you want to talk about. If you want to come and talk more about specifically like justice involved thing, like whatever. I do a lot of different stuff on the podcast, so you're always welcome to come back if you ever just want to, any ideas. I'm always welcome to. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, Mindy, for watching and supporting and all the things. I love it.
all right.
Run it. Ooh, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my pen ready. Used to hold myself back, my self-esteem damn bad. I gotta keep on chugging. Ran through everything in front of me.